Mr. Perry, you're good? All right, I will call the July 8th Executive and Finance Standing Committee to order. Roll call, please, Mr. Kalish.
Carroll. Here. Gill. Here. Glassburn. Woodhouse. Here. Turk. Here. Frank. Williamson.
Here.
Bowie. Nope. Yellowclaw.
Okay. Mr. Frank is trying to get in, I know that. He just texted me, open meeting law verification and compliance.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting is properly known.
All right. Agenda approval, a couple changes. Item 9 will be scratched. Item 12, I'm going to move up to after item 6, after public comment. So our gentlemen from the City of Richland Center don't have to sit through the rest of this. Otherwise, we have a 23-point agenda down to 22 points with scratching item 9. Looking for approval with the changes. Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. Gill. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? And nobody online. All right, moving on to minutes from June 23rd, 2025. Anybody see any corrections, additions, changes from the minutes from the June 23rd meetings? If not, I will approve them as presented in our packets. Public comment. Anybody from the public in the room and or online? Going once, twice, so. Moving on to Mr. Scott Gold, and we're going to item 12, discussion, possible action, resolution approving a new water supply source, Pine Valley Community Village. Multiple people will discuss. Where do we want to start?
I don't know if we want to start with Delta and Bart.
Bart?
Be great. Good evening, everybody. Got another handout. How are you? Good. All right, surviving.
Did you get that check?
Yeah,
That one I sent last week.
it didn't have enough zeros on it. Left of the decimal then.
.0001.
Right. So what I'm handing out, Trish, did you put that? Yeah, you got it up there on the screen.
Thanks, sir.
Trish, you want another hard copy?
No,
So what I'm handing out is basically an update. Same information as last 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, same format. The only changes are based off of, and Brittany can talk more into this, but based off of some of the requirements that the facility will need with Legionella disease. And we had talked about that extensively last time, about different requirements for testing and things like that. She's gotten more information on it, but biggest changes is on option 1 and 2, where the connection to the city, 12-inch water main is still option 1, 8-inch water main and 12 inches option 2. The biggest thing is that we'd have to have some type of disinfection system, and we have to add a building down at the Pine Valley Community Village for backflow prevention, some extra piping, the disinfection system, etc. So that, of course, changes all the line items across on options 1 and 2. Everything else, ladies and gentlemen, pretty much is exactly the same that we discussed last time. You know, their flows are still the same, their water usage, excuse me. Option 3 is if they just repair the existing reservoir, but over 20-year time, you're going to end up having to replace it at some point in time. So yes, that's the least expensive option. However, after 20 years, you're still probably going to have to replace the reservoirs with one of the other 4 options. There's also the issue that we discussed that you could pan up a little bit at the bottom of this screen. Sorry. So the option 3 does not include the replacement of the current water main. It's about 4,300 feet from Pine Valley Community Village out to the reservoir and back. That main is the original main. And the electrical system upgrade, which is about 75 grand of the 735. Right now, there is no electrical out there. It's all done via battery. So even though option 3, you could go on and repair the facility for the next 10, 20 years, eventually you're going to have to upgrade. So I'm basically just here, if you have any questions, and more or less because on my way from Waukesha to Lone Rock, this was on the way. So, I guess any questions of me or Brittany, maybe if you want to discuss more of the requirements, Legionella disease, et cetera.
Yeah, so DSPS, and DHS require us to do extensive disinfecting of our waters because we can have a lot of different type of bacteria in there. So the disinfectant part of it is extremely important, so our residents do not get sick. Essentially Legionella can lead to death very quickly in the elderly. And it can be just as simple as, hitting and doing, construction and breaking up that in the pipes and causing it just to go right to the water, all the way down to us. So if we do connect, we just have to make sure we have a lot of things in place, extra water heaters, disinfectants, just so that we fall within the regulations that are set before us to protect our residents.
And one thing to note, regardless of whatever you guys decide, options 1 and 2, again, their connection to the city. Advantages and disadvantages are in table 3. We went through that 2 weeks ago. Options 4 and 5 are replacing the reservoir in one shape or form out at the site. But any of those 4 options you go with, we have to verify the current sprinkler system will be sufficient with the change in pressure. So if you recall last time I talked, if we replace the reservoir at a different height or a different location, which would require a different elevation, even if you're not connecting to the city, we still have to verify the existing sprinkler system and the existing facility that it will satisfy the DSPS requirements. That being unknown, that is not part of the calculations to replace that sprinkler system because obviously none of us in this room know we may have to or not yet. That's part of the design phase. The only way you don't have to replace the sprinkler system or the possibility of such is if you keep the existing reservoir and or replace it at the exact same location, same elevation in order to not change the pressure.
Questions so far to Bart, Chad, or Brittany on this portion? And or you can start your own questions. Yeah, or other 2 gentlemen over there from the city, if you have questions on their portion of it. Mr. Carroll.
Point about option 3 is that apparently for the fire case, it doesn't have enough storage for that 2-hour thing, but it's been operating that way for a while. So what would drive us to, just because we found out about it, we have to change, or how long can we keep going the way we are?
Again, I'm gonna say until the repairs outlast the cost efficiency. What happens is right now, you don't have, if you were to do a significant upgrade to your facility, definition of significant upgrade is different between me and you engineers in the state, but if you were to do a significant upgrade, then you have to bring that system up to code, current code. At that point is when you have to have that 2-hour fire flow protection. If you go on and do option 3 and repair this for the next 10 years, let's say, stick your money in it and then eventually knock it down and replace it or connect in the city 10 years from now, you will proceed with fire protection tomorrow no different than you are today. I'm assuming that you have some agreement with the city of Richland Center to provide that fire protection. If you don't, you should. So that's the caveat is as soon as you do a significant upgrade, and that simply means you change type of operations, obviously replace a reservoir, replace a well, something of that nature, then you have to bring it up to current code.
Mr. Gill, question.
Yeah, I had a similar question, I guess, directed to Brittany, is that we've got this, are we gonna fail audits because of our lack of fire protection capacity? Or is there some kind of a problem that's going to present that we've discovered that we don't have the capacity now?
So that you mentioned it, I did get an email from Steve following his life safety, his annual life safety inspection with an email telling me there's lots of inspections and things that he'll be expecting next year that he did not ask for, and then maintaining the reservoir. So, I mean, I can forward you guys the email. It just kind of walks us through, but there is good chance that he might catch that this next year. He didn't, like I said, he didn't look at it. He didn't realize his part in that because he doesn't deal with these very often. So there is a good chance that we might get cited for not being able to maintain that capacity that we're required to.
So if we were cited, then would we be required to upgrade our system? We would be.
Other questions, comments? I got one for Scott. Does the hospital, whenever you guys do, if I understand this right, whenever you guys do water work within the city, does the hospital have to, do they have the same type of stuff? Of,
I'm gonna defer to Steve because he's dealt with this 20 years.
Yep.
And he's talked to Schmidt and to the hospital, which to me are the same patients that we're talking about.
yep,
No. Simple answer. We did a 3-phase project, 7th, 8th Cedar Street over the last 3 summers. 4 blocks over the hill from the hospital, and no conversations with them, any pre-construction meetings, any information. And Bart is an engineer. We do bacteria testing before new main is placed into service, but have never tested for Legionella.
That's not true, because I actually got their water management program sent over to me, and that is actually a federal and state requirement that they are supposed to be doing. So yes, I did receive their water management program that states they do Legionella testing.
Okay, I'm going there. Nothing involved with the city directly is communication
Correct.
to the city. Yes, they do have a water management program. I'm aware of that water management program. They do flow water on dead end mains throughout the facility, as does Schmidt. Schmidt's request of the utility is if we do construction or have a main break within 6 blocks of their facility, we notify them. Again, no request of testing by the utility for them. And they do have a water management program also at Schmidt where monthly they run water in fixtures, all the resident rooms to make sure there's fresh water brought in through the system. So they both have a water management program like that. It requires that, which I would assume that currently Pine Valley also does.
Steve, may I ask if, when, and if within 6 blocks, you said for Schmidt,
Correct.
like if you had a water break, do you know, was Schmidt then having to test internally? You guys know?
I don't know to the extent of what they do internally, other than I know that they follow their water management
So
program.
your guys'
Didn't
job,
go
if we got a water break, call up Schmidt, hey, got a water break within 6 blocks. You satisfied your requirements as utility,
Right.
what they do, you're not privy to.
Correct. Which, and I know they have that program where they do flushing internally. They do it on a monthly basis. They document that flushing. In the past, the facility manager, environmental manager that's there currently had worked there in the past. He left, came back to that facility. When he was there the first time, he asked me to send my monthly EMOR report, which is the report I do to DNR, which has my residuals on it. He asked me to send that, so we had it filed to prove that we had chlorine residual in the distribution system. When he came back, there were 2 or 3 changes at that position in the time he was gone, came back. Kind of got lost through the process of whose emails going to currently. I asked him if he wanted that. He said, no, if you have access to it, we got to audit it and you can provide it for me. That's sufficient. So.
Correct, yeah, we have to have some water testing, like what you guys do for water testing, but inside facilities, we have more extensive testing. And that's your Legionellas, that is, you know, we have to make sure there's no nitrates, there's no all of that, but that should be coming from the city testing anyways.
Correct.
But we still have to provide that disinfectant coming in because we can still get Legionellas even if we have all that disinfectant.
Could I ask a question? Are you guys adding chlorine or disinfectant? Chlorine, do you UV currently? No. Pumping out of the same aquifer that I am. Why is that a concern if we put back in the city? I don't understand.
Yeah, my My assumption in 32 years of doing engineering is that because one entity is regulated differently than another entity. That's why you guys are regulated by the DNR, period. They're regulated by DSPS, DHS, and
No, I think so. Further question? Mr. Carroll.
As far as option 3, apparently no one has seen the pictures or the video or the full report on that inspection. We just have the forms filled out. But, have we pursued all avenues to try to get the full report? Is there any way
We are due for another inspection, so we either need to make a decision to do something else, or I'm gonna, get the inspection going. So then we will have full report, videos, everything.
when do you expect that would be?
I don't know if it'll be at this fall or not, but
I think it's due in 26 or 27. Or 26.
we haven't had one for a while.
I thought the last one was
Every 2 years.
I talked to Russ Keeney, who is the owner of Hydro Clean and Seal, whatever it's called. So to verify what his report is, so verbally, you know, he talked me through what his report was, which is what I'm basing this on. I haven't seen the video myself, but again, I've worked with Russ before in other communities in my long career, and what he explained to me is exactly what we've talked about.
So you're,
The last inspection was in 2018. So 7 years ago.
Supposed to do
your option 3 for repairing existing reservoir, $3,300 must be based on that inspection.
Yep, so last time he charged about $2,800 or $3,000. I'm assuming inflation wise, if he comes back in 2026, it'll be a little bit more. Back out of his mouth, he's like, Barton at about 3 to 5%. So that's how I came up with that number, Steve. And just so you guys know, every 5 years, whether it's the city of Richland Center,
In the last.
Pine Valley Community Village, Sextonville Waterworks, they have to have the reservoir, their water storage tank, a reservoir, if you will, inspected. And once every 10 years, you're supposed to drain it down via DNR to have it inspected that way. That's getting a little further in between because now they have ROV units, which are basically robotic or remote vehicles that can go in underwater and get a good inspection. So it's a lot more difficult than it used to be. Guys like me got hung up from up top of towers in the reservoir by our feet and had to look in there in the water, and it was much more difficult. That's a joke, Steve.
Well, there had to have been, I mean, I don't know if anybody's gone back through when I was on the committee, we switched to this newest in 2024, Trish tells me. So from 21 till 24, I was on the Pine Valley Committee. Somewhere in those 3 years, we paid probably, I'm guessing it was 60 grand for somebody. Does that sound right for an inspection? I remember it coming through, we go through the bills monthly.
Was it an inspection of the facility, like Pine Valley?
No, they sent supposedly they sent scuba divers into the tank. That's what we were told.
The only reports I've found are from 2017,
Yep.
2018.
So Liquid Engineering out of Montana did probably 99% of all the communities. We work in 90 communities. And I would say 99% of those 90 communities, Liquid Engineering out of Montana did every reservoir from 1987 until about 2005. So their charges were typically somewhere in the magnitude, obviously in 87 was more like $3,000. In 2007 was probably more like 10 grand, but it wasn't 60.
And I could be way off at 60, but it had to happen sometime between 21 and 24. And nobody else in this room was on the committee. So anyway, we paid for a inspection sometime.
I'll take a look
Here.
and see if I can locate.
No matter how new or old the tank, they still inspect it that often?
That's the DNR rule. Every 5 years, you have to have it inspected. And every other time, or once in every 10 years, you're supposed to completely drain it and have it inspected. Again, they're getting more lax with that 10-year period now because of remote operated vehicles or ROVs, which are remote control vehicles that go inside underwater.
Is there any life expectancy when they talk about just repairing? Do they ever give you, well, that'll be good for 10 years, 20 years?
The tower cleaning and inspection companies, no.
No guarantee.
Based off of those reports, I make my educated prediction, based off the years, based off of how bad it is. And again, I would say based off of my analysis here, you're probably not gonna wanna last another 20 years with that reservoir. I would say confidently that within 10 years, you're gonna need to do something.
Chad, what is that line that runs between the two? Is it plastic or?
I don't know for sure, I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
It'll be ductile iron, or it could be sand cast iron.
That's 40 years old or whenever it was built, is that what you thought?
The last thing I thought I saw was like, in the
75.
60s.
Yeah, it's about 75 years old. So the pipe normally is life expectancy is 50, but there's a lot of water main pipe in the ground in southwest Wisconsin that's 75 to 100. If that pipe was put in the same time the reservoir was built, which I can only assume because you had to have water going to and fro, it's 75 years old now. So
And your best get, Mark, that's probably either the cat or the cast.
it's either cast iron, sand cast iron, which is way worse, or ductile iron. And it's probably cast iron or sand cast being 75 years old.
Steve, what do you have in town that 75-year-old, what's it made? What do they use? Did they use 75?
Got all the stuff Bart just talked about, ductile, really ductile security. You're finding the metal.
Question, what, Mr. Gill?
Yeah, we talked about leakage and concern, we really don't know if there's leakage, it's an old pipe or whatever, and what would it cost to do a test to see if it is leaking, because these numbers are all based on usage, so what's our thought about it?
If it's leaking, Mark, we're gonna see it, it's gonna come out of the ground probably. For
Okay,
that length, so
it's not
you
gonna,
would be wasting your money to do a leakage
Okay.
study on the pipe.
okay. And then my second question has to do with, if we were to do the number one option with 12-inch pipe, and we actually, other entities, businesses or homes tie into it, we're gonna get some sort of benefit, some cost benefit, correct?
Well, you want to answer that?
Yeah.
So in the tariff for the first 10 years, after you do the extension, you as the owner, the investor in it, you would recoup cost of businesses tapping onto that water main, but it's only 10 years. Currently, I think Steve looked, we do not have any extension that anybody could hop on and anybody would recover, so. And we did this through the Walmart extension, and he showed me the documents on how we did that. It'd be the same setup of going from Walmart out to Pine Valley. And if something did develop and tap in the first 10 years, there would be dollars that the county would get back for paying for the extension.
Any idea what kind of dollars we're talking about, or what, I guess how impactful that would be over time?
It's,
In that document.
it's, calculation was done in the past by our auditors, and it's based on length, depends whoever hooks on. So when it was extended from Jones's to Walmart, Dairy Queen hooked on, they were closer than Westby Co-ops, which is proportionate to where the attachments made.
A lot of times what they'll do, I don't know if this is exactly Richland Center's case, they were called deferred assessments in the 80s and the 90s. So let's say there's 5 entities, Pine Valley being one of the 5. So you would have 20%. So the other 80% could be recouped, okay? And let's say typically how they'll do it is after every 2 years, there's a depreciation to the pipe. So let's just say it's $1 million to make it simple. you could potentially recoup 800,000 if everyone hooked up in the first 2 years, those other 4 properties.
Sure.
But if property 4 doesn't hook up for year 10, now you're not gonna recoup 100% of the 200,000, it might only be 20,000 or something, or 25. So the longer it takes for someone to hook on, the less money you would recoup.
Steve, isn't just about everything from Walmart, Pine Valley floodplain anyway, as far as potential for anybody building out there? I know we own land on, east side of Pine Valley, and we couldn't even get access in there because of it being floodplain.
I
So,
guess I'm not sure,
thinking,
but-
you know, it'd be great if we get some money out of it. I just couldn't imagine any building between the river and Pine Valley myself.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the current floodplain maps actually overlay out there. I did not look at that information.
Mr.
It's
Carroll?
limited. For sure. Backing up to the start, what got this on our calendar? Did something happen? I mean, this inspection was done in 2018 and now we're trying to decide what to do. I don't recall why it's on even on our agenda at this point. Did we have a problem happen? Why are we looking at it now?
I would assume it was from the 2018 inspection. That was the last one that we actually have.
You know, I was just looking at it and I wanted to bring somebody's attention, and this is kind of how it got started.
Because we have to, in 2018, we were supposed to do something, if I remember.
Well, it doesn't really say that you have to do anything, but that was also 7 years ago, so I'm like, we are another inspection here that should have been a couple years ago, and if it did happen, I don't know, because I didn't know records of it.
Elaine,
There's a record of Valley paying them 2,800, the divers, for doing it in 2023.
2023, 2,800?
It's the check was written, it says it's in the minutes for October 16, 2023, so.
What
must have
company?
had one in 2023.
What company? Does it give you?
It just says water tower cleaning coat for 2,800 for divers cleaning.
Oh, it was
inspecting the reservoir.
only a cleaning, wasn't an inspection.
No, that's the
Didn't
same
say
company that did
Is it?
2018, that's Russ's company.
Okay.
I remember watching the video, you could see them down there. They had video of it.
So there's another report we haven't seen.
Somewhere.
I heard we had a report that we could, done a couple months ago.
What do you guys think? Wait another month or have Chad go ahead with the next inspection or?
Let's see that inspection.
Yeah, I think the inspection is a good idea. Where are we? And we're talking about it, you know, or can we get the 2023 one? Is that available?
It's $2,800. They were talking $1 million here.
Right.
I think we could spend the $2,800 for the inspection. I don't know if that's gonna matter, but,
I think it'll be closer to 3,300.
well, whatever. Okay, so it's under 5,000. I mean, to me, we got a lot of numbers here and we don't have any idea what we're even really talking about.
Other than we know we have problems.
We think we have a problem.
We got 75-year-old
There's this 2023 report, but nobody knows where it is, correct?
And we can't find it from whoever did the inspection?
Well, if Chad would have found it, he would have sent it to me 6 to 8 months ago, because he sent me everything he had. And there's no 2023 report in the stuff that I have.
Would whoever did the inspection maintain a copy of that?
They could have, but when I asked them for any other, they didn't have it.
Okay.
So, which is surprising, especially since we have documentation of you guys paid for it. So,
I was just off a little on my numbers. Mr. Cooley.
Can I make a motion to get this inspection done, and then we can reassess all this other stuff?
I agree with that.
Seconded by Mr. Carroll. Further discussion? Mr. Manning.
So if we do this inspection, is there a timeline where they automatically do it? Or will this put us off to the next inspection 5 years you're talking?
Yeah.
So we'll just push that out.
yeah, really what it comes down to is your DNR rep. So by rights, it's supposed to be done in 2028, because you did one in 23. So somewhere, at least the city has a documentation that you paid for an inspection in 2023. So somewhere there's this report. So if your DNR basin engineer for the water system says, okay, that's satisfied, blah, 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 even though they don't have something on record, then by 2028 is when you have to have the next one done. If you do one in 25 or 26, whenever they can physically get here, then that will start the next 5 years.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll vote. Mr. Drew.
So if we hadn't had the drained inspection the last time, is that something we'd have to contemplate this time if we wanted to really reset that clock?
Again, that's up to the basin engineer whether they allow that. I have some communities where they have never drained the tower. But the problem is if you drain the tower, now you're talking more like what Steve brought up for costs. Because now you have to have separate bladder systems in, and you're gonna be closer to 60,000 than 6,000 for inspection. Because you have to maintain, unless Brittany says, hey, everyone go stand out here for the next 2 hours out on the highway and don't use any water, you have to maintain that water pressure, that water system.
During drain down.
During drain down, yeah. And then, of course, once they drain it down, then they gotta go in, they gotta go inspect it. I mean, the inspection doesn't take 10 minutes, as you guys can understand. And then once they get it drained down, then Chad's gotta turn the well pump back on and fill it up. Before he does that, he has to take 2 samples in order to bring it back up, send it to the state lab to get them tested. So there's another 2 days. So now those people are standing outside with blankets on because now they're in the cold. So it's a bigger deal. It's a huge deal when you have to drain it down. That's why most communities push it to the limit to not have to do it.
Makes sense. What about, I'll ask these guys. Steve, have you guys ever cameraed any of your old pipes?
So
Yeah. That was gonna be me. All right, all those in favor of going ahead with,
and your current well pumps to it through one line, and then the second line comes back to the facility. You're not using the same inlet outlet. Correct.
any other questions? Mr. Woodhouse, I haven't heard anything on you tonight. Thank you. We're 35 minutes in. So. All those in favor of going ahead with a new inspection, having Chad get that scheduled as soon as possible, and we'll keep these numbers around and they'll just increase, so. All those in favor of doing so signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Aye. All right, thank you. Bob is on.
All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right.
Be back whenever that's done, I guess, huh?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Elaine, for digging that up for me. Let's go to 7, administrator's report.
So just a few updates. Number one, Barbara Scott was appointed as the interim service director of the ambulance service. She does have a 3-month commitment until we can find a new person to hire. John Heinen has been appointed as the interim emergency management director. He was previously the emergency management coordinator, and we will be increasing his hours per week from 20 to 29. And then I've started to explore some options about possibly separating emergency services with emergency management. So that's something that, when a decision's made, I will be bringing that back to this committee for their approval. And then we started the 2026 budget development last week, had a meeting with department heads yesterday, scheduled meetings for them to present their budget coming up later this month. So next month, we plan to have a draft budget to you at the first executive and finance committee meeting in August.
Questions for the administrator? Good. All right, let's move into item 8, discussion and possible action on approval of changes to the sick leave, vacation, and wage scale sections of the handbook of personal policies and work rules of the county. That is you.
Roll.
Sure.
So the first section is the vacation section that we are looking to update. You may recall back in April, we brought this information to you that the Tyler system wouldn't allow us to do dumps of vacation, that we needed to do accruals of vacation. So we're building that in. We're also building in that this will be the Pine Valley vacation schedule. Right now, Pine Valley vacation schedule is different than the rest of the county, and we're not talking about sheriff's union because that is different, but Pine Valley is on a different vacation schedule than what we are, so we are building them into being on the same vacation schedule as everybody else. We updated the amount of time employees can carry over, and we will start that in 2027. So it was at when the employee reached the 18-month mark. We are switching that to change to every year at the end of the year, we'll reset their vacation if they have too much on the books. And the last thing that we're looking to update in the vacation section is right now it is set up that if an employee is terminated, they get their vacation payout. If an employee does not give 2 weeks notice, they do not get their vacation payout. So we're looking to switch it that employees who have been terminated will not be eligible to receive vacation payout. And then continuing in that if you do not give your appropriate notice, you also won't receive your vacation pay. Any questions before I go on to the sick leave section on the vacation section? For the sick leave section, we just made a few changes. Part of it is really that accrual. So every pay period, 24 pay periods in the year, employees will accrue 4 hours of sick leave. There was just some language cleanup that we had in there. There's not anything major. It's more really about supporting what we currently have in place since the Tyler rollout. And then on the wage scale, this would be a new section in the handbook. As you guys all recall, we had a new updated wage scale that was put in place last year. I am asking that this section be added to the employee handbook, which states that employees will get a step increase every year. And that we will present to you the updated wage scale as it's been reviewed to determine if it should also be updated.
Questions, comments on the items, sick leave, vacation, and something else?
Wage scale.
Wage scale, yeah. Mr. Carroll.
Same question, was this part of a just a periodic review, or was there something that brought up the need to change?
The handbook has not been reviewed since 2023, and we definitely need to review the whole handbook. So we're just trying, my goal is to bring it to you in sections so it's manageable. Because of the Tyler rollout, that's what prompted the vacation and the sick leave to become first, because we had to change how we give it to employees because of the new system. And then the wage scale, I'm bringing that now because we are working on budget preparation and I'm wanting to add that. But my hope is every month you're going to see parts of the handbook coming to you. It'll be exciting.
Any other questions?
Chair, this is Bob. I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
So has this been brought to the department head just for review? Do they have any input or idiosyncrasies that we maybe hadn't thought of with this?
Yes, we did take it to our department head meeting last month. So they had an opportunity to review the proposal and they did give input and we did make some changes based on their input. And I do plan to do that each month, that when I do bring stuff to you, that they'll have had the opportunity to review it. Because ultimately, we want to make sure it's consistent across all departments and that everybody is translating it and reading it the exact same way.
Perfect. Thank you.
And this will make us, the vacation schedule will be the same countywide other than the sheriff's department.
Correct.
Okay, and that was one of our goals. Any other questions for the group? If not, we want to move this on to full county board, correct? Entertain a motion to approve the changes to sick leave, vacation, and wage scale. Send it on to full motion. Mr. Cooley makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Manning. I think we've discussed it enough. Anybody else with a question? If not, all those in favor of approving the sick leave, vacation, and wage scale and moving it on to full county board, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, we have skipped, moving on to we're skipping 9, moving to 10. Discussion and possible action, resolution approving the 2026 capital improvement plan. Item 10.
So as you can see in the packet, the plan was put in place. So what we are looking to do for short-term borrowing, number one is doing technology updates in our small courtroom. Right now, our small courtroom does not have technology built in to do like this kind of the zooming, and they don't have the microphone, so it has been difficult for them to function. We are looking to do a countywide server refresh, highway equipment purchase, new squad car purchase, and then also some department software for the sheriff's department. What that software would do would be a cloud-based program to keep their body camera footage, and then it would be the HVAC replacement for Simon. So that is what we are looking to build into the 2026 plan.
Comments on the CIP for the 2026 year budget? Is that 250,000? Is that everything, or that would be our half, or just a
It's
good
an
estimate?
estimate on everything. I did meet with the city. They would not have the funds to do this in 2026, but possibly probably in 2027. So that is something we would have to think about. We did have Venture out there, so I'm also waiting to hear what Venture has to say about their system. But our hope is that we can get that taken care of.
Yeah, just to be clear, this list of capital improvement things is just those that we want to use short-term borrowing for. What is the rest of the capital improvement budget for the years? Or what is there?
Oh, moving forward for like 27, 28?
No, for 2026. In other words, things that we're not going to use short-term borrowing for.
Those things would all be built into their budgets.
All right, so the total capital improvement budget for the year will be this plus whatever gets added.
If they have, like some departments have capital improvements already built into their budget. So Pine Valley has some that they're already going to be taking care of. HHS already has some that they're going to be taking care of. I know MIS had some capital improvement projects and requests that we're going to be trying to build into their budget, because some of the things that they have done through capital improvement projects in the past really are things that are needed for daily functioning. And we really should be looking at putting those into the budget to cut down on the capital.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm just saying that an operational budget and a capital improvement budget are kind of separate.
Yeah,
And this is really just a part of the capital budget.
yes, this is, okay. And I guess I'm just brought to you what our short-term borrowing
Right.
will look like, yes.
The last capital improvement plan I found was 2022. I don't know if there's another one's update or not, but it had a total of 1.7 million. And so I don't know if those same projects are what we're currently looking at, but maybe it's time to look.
That was, when Clint was building those plans, I think there's some things that have dropped off since then. Some of that might have been campus or, stuff like that, that when he was looking at it, it was things that, if I remember right, it was campus stuff that we were gonna have to put into the campus. And I think that's dropped off. That's why it was like 1.7.
But what I'm saying is the capital improvement plan should be a living document.
And it is.
Spoilers or other things that happen. Well, I'm just saying it'd be nice if we had access to it.
We can bring that next month. We can bring that to you, because what we had department heads do the next 3 years. So they did 26, 27, 28. We can put that document together and bring it.
Right, so just some background. So Mark, you're right. We started capital improvement planning was due to Richland County. It was kind of born around 21, 2022, somewhere around there, right? So we did have, the plan was 5 years of sheets which were submitted to department heads. They filled out 5 years going forward. So what's happened every year is that we've done the short-term borrowing thing, but as part of that plan, those items have shifted to either be included in that year's short-term borrowing or moved out. So Steve, to your point, we do have sheets built out for the next 5 years for each department, in which annually they're reviewed to either push those other projects out or, account for them in the current year. So it is a living document. What you're seeing before you is just a resolution that we would typically do for the short-term borrowing, because that is a mechanism which the county is currently using to complete capital improvement projects that are not necessarily in the core, that are not in the core budget, that you will all approve those separately. So those documents are living, they do exist. This is just for this year's 2026 fund. So it's kind of moved along, and Mark, you're right, it added various things in there. I mean, there were wish lists upon wish lists. A lot of it was campus stuff. You know, there were some ARPA considerations taken in there as well, as we all know that funding's been allocated, is spoken for, will go away sooner than what we think, or have to be used up. So it's reviewed every year as a part of that plan, just lives in different spreadsheets.
But in all honesty, all the capital projects should go into this. It should be all its own. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be requiring the operational budget to do that.
Right.
They should be separate. I agree with Steve. It should be separate. And I think that was the point. When Clint started it, that was the point. That's why we started the borrowing in the first place, because we didn't have the money to do it.
To try and catch up.
Exactly. So we need to stay on that path, and probably just need to look at that document and bring that back to light so we can see where it is.
And I think, didn't you also, Derek, you and Candace found projects that hadn't been done and took some of that money and used it elsewhere that were on the list?
That was ARPA money that
No.
wasn't.
There was instances of short-term borrowing in which projects were noted for on the CIP plan, and then the projects weren't finished. And that happened a couple different times with a couple different projects, because we're doing this every year. So that is something that Administrator Clements and I spoke about, was really defining what is a capital improvement project, setting a very strict dollar amount of that, and saying if it's, you know, 5,000 or whatever the dollar amount is, that is a true capital improvement plan that should not live in an operational budget. It should be pushed outside. So over the years, we've done that, but I think your point is valid, Mark, is that was the point of this plan, and really sitting down and looking at what was submitted as a capital improvement, further clarifying that and making sure that it's not absorbed in an operational budget, that's not representative of.
Well, and then the other part of it is someone's got to drive it and get it done.
Correct.
Because otherwise it just hangs there.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So if these projects never get completed, because it isn't like we got engineers and everybody here that's gonna make sure all that work gets done. So that probably this committee should be looking at that for sure, just to see, okay, where are we at? This is what we said we were gonna do this year. And you can't wait till month 9 to do that. You know what I mean? It should, now some of them are gonna be out farther, but you have to stay on top. Make sure that you're getting I mean, we borrow the money for a reason. Taxpayers need to get what they paid money for.
And that is where those little pots of money were found, is going through those projects and comparing that. That's exactly what Candace and I did last year, and then Trish and I did it again this year, and used, you know, we're telling departments like, all right, you signed up for this project, you didn't do it, those funds are gonna be reallocated for capital improvements, obviously, but that exact thing, so, was, you know, one of the positions that a finance director.
Exactly.
See if you have another question.
Just that,
Comment?
it all sounds like it's going the way I would hope it would, but it'd be nice if this committee could have access to that file, so we could be looking ahead at the same time as everyone else.
Good. Any other comments on the proposed 2026 CIP short-term borrowing list? If not, I would entertain a motion then we can move this on to Polk County Board. Mr. Gill makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Cooley. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor of moving the 2026 proposed CIP department list in the amount of $1,064,000 signify by saying aye. Aye. Frank still on there? Yep. Anybody
Yep, I am.
opposed?
Yep.
All right,
Yes.
good with it?
I-
All right. Thank you. So, item 11, discussion and possible action on employee assistance program.
So currently, the county does not have an employee assistance program since I started here a couple of years ago. This is something that has been talked about. I did connect with the insurance center out of La Crosse, met with them. They provided us an option. They work with multiple different agencies, and they provided us this option to engage with ERC counselors and consultants to supply an employee assistance program to our employees. am asking for permission to start this. The cost is $2.58 per person per month. We would be covering approximately 285 employees. We would look to cover all full-time employees and all ambulance employees, just based on some of the things that they see when they're out on calls. And they have a lot of on-call and part-time staff that would benefit from this program. And then we would be using ARPA funds to fund through the end of this year, and then we will build it into our budget for 2026.
Questions, comments? Great idea. Mr. Woodhouse.
Were you provided any data on how frequently these programs are used by this vendor? Like what percentage of employees use these services?
I don't know that. What this vendor provides, they're throughout the state, and what this vendor provides is up to 8 sessions per employee per incident. But I'm not sure how often it's being used.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Mr. Gill.
So when you break down to 258 per person per month, what is that gonna cost us on a monthly basis?
So, per month, it would be, I figured it'd be about, 12,000 per year. So about 1,000 a month.
Other questions, comments? Is that math right, Mr. Carroll?
That's on the high end. I mean, that is really on the high end. 4 months, it would be $3,676.
Something
Divide
like
that by-
$12 a month, I mean,
Yeah.
it's $3 times 300.
900, yep. Yep. All right, if not, I would entertain a motion to move this on to full county board as well. The start of an EAP program using ARPA money to pay for it for the rest of 2025. Mr. Cooley and Mr. Manning, discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Mr. Frank, you're good?
Yes, we're good.
All right, don't run off the road. Skipping.
I'm sitting.
Okay. Item 13, discussion and possible action, corporate council structure for the year of 2026. Item 13.
So after our last meeting, I took a look at the different monthly bills that we've received from Apton Swain. I had additional discussions with the judge, with Jennifer, with Mike, and what I think our best option for next year would be is to do a request for proposals for new corporation council for next year, but really try to phrase it better. So what I see that we need for all of the court action that needs to happen by corporation council, which is child support, our emergency detentions, our chips and gyps cases, our protective placements, TPRs, guardianships, our emergency chapter 51s, SWATs reviews, ordinance prosecution. We need about 80 hours a month for those services. And then we need approximately 40 hours a month for county business. So what I would like to do is draft an RFP requesting a couple of different options. One entity that can cover the approximate 85 hours a month that we need, or an entity to cover the court process and another entity to cover the county business. Sometimes when you look at corporation council and the broad services that it provides, we might benefit from having a couple of different ones in place. That is how Iowa County is structured, and it works well for them from what I'm hearing. So that is something we're looking at. The other thing that we need to do when we're doing this is, you know, and we've talked about this, Amy Forehand has been doing about 15 hours of work a month, a week, and she's contracted for 8. So we really need to fine tune what her duties will be and what the contracted corporation duties will be. So as long as you guys are good with that, we will look to request proposals for the bidding of corporation.
Question, go ahead.
So are those hours, sorry, it's late and my math is not great. I'm wordy, not mathy. So does that, the amount that you're looking at, getting proposals on, does that not include then the 32 hours a month for Amy?
That is separate. So
Okay.
what I see for core work is we need about 80 hours a month. If Amy covers about 30, 35, contracted would be 45.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, this is Bob. I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
So in the financial review, it says Richland County has an average paid the law firm 88,000 each month. I'm thinking that's supposed to be each year. And I'm also, if the RFP I have no trouble with, I think we need to see what our budget's going to be and how that looks before we jump into this and make it part of the 26 budget so we have a good picture. But I think the RFP is a good idea to get started.
Hey, Mr. Kirk.
The present contract we have is up actually this year, isn't it?
Yes.
At the end of
September.
September, but we have August and September, and a little bit of July. So you put the RFP out and, yeah. Mr. Cooley.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Cooley, I'll second it. Further discussion on giving her our administrator go ahead to send out the RFP to, I like the idea of, well, both ways, either doing two or one that can do both, but see what the dollar amounts come in by probably what, first part of August, hopefully, a month from now, if we're lucky, but don't know if you can make it happen that fast. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of giving the administrator approval to go ahead with the RFP, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Item 14, discussion and possible action on approval of ordinance entitled Payment with Coins or Painted Currency. 14. Is that you, Ashley?
That's me, yeah. So I have a couple different ordinances here. I'm gonna read them off individually, but just to base that all the ordinances that I'm presenting tonight would be new. They're not amended, so these would be new ordinances for Richland County. I've done a bunch of research on them. They are used all over the state with all the different counties here. And because we don't have those, I thought that these would be beneficial not only for my office, but beneficial for other departments within the county. So the first one that I'm presenting to you, which would be the payment with coin and painted currency. Essentially, that would be any coin presented to any of the departments here over $1. I don't have a coin counter. I am unfamiliar if any other department in the county has a coin counter, but when you have multiple rolls of coins that come in, especially if they are over $1, like pennies or anything else, I've got to count those by hand. The departments have to count those by hand. It takes a massive amount of time. And with taxes coming up, this is to kind of get rid of the things that do come into the offices, like 47 rolls of pennies. So that's what this would really cover. It would also cover currency that comes in, whether they are soiled, whether they come in a bucket of water, things that you don't really want to handle, and that could be hazardous to our health. Just some things that we don't necessarily think of, but they do end up happening. I don't want my staff to have to deal with that. I don't want anyone else in the county to have to deal with money like that. So be able to give them that option to refuse that from that person that's paying, not only for my department, but for all the other departments, giving them the option to refuse that, or giving them the ability to go to the bank, get tender for those coins, and then taking it back to pay that off. So that would be the first one.
Questions, Mr. Gill?
Yeah, how common is that for people to do this?
It's not, but it's always good to have it in place, and that's really what these are going to be for. I'm thinking of ahead, because I just don't want that to be. I want to be able to have that option, and it's happened.
It's happened enough times.
And that's why they're in place in multiple different counties.
People brought a bucket of water onto.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Need a motion?
Sure. Motion by Cooey, seconded by Mr. Carroll. Further discussion on the tainted coin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. We're moving these ordinance, approval of the ordinance. Aye. All right, you have item 15 as well. Discussion possible action approval of ordinance entitled underpayments and overpayments. 15.
So this would be essentially for the taxes. So right now, our threshold internally is $1 over and $1 under. So anything that is underpaid by $1, the county covers. And anything that's overpaid, for example, like if you overpay your taxes by $1, I'm having to write a check for $1.52 to send to somebody because it's overpaid. The amount of a check, you know, if you rough it down, you have to pay for your ink, you have to pay for your paper, you have to pay for the envelope, you have to also pay for the checks. Sometimes there's specialized checks. And you also have to pay for the postage. Postage is 69 or 67 cents right now, but they're always increasing that. It's $5 roughly on average to send a check. So if we're writing checks for under $5, it's not very cost efficient for us. So logistically, a lot of the checks aren't even cash because they are such a low amount. So that's really what this ordinance comes into play, is that money for those overpayments would be put into a general ledger line, and the underpayments that the county is paying for would be taken out of that. So it's a cost efficiency, it's helping us save money and helping us be able to make sure that we can cover those costs.
Sounds good to me. Mr. Woodhouse. Motion by Woodhouse, seconded by Mr. Kerr. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the ordinance as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. One more, 16. Discussion and possible action approval of ordinance entitled dishonored checks. 16.
So this really has to do with inefficient funds that come back. So for example, if we take a check to the bank and it comes back saying it's not inefficient funds, I usually have them run it again and it comes back, it's still inefficient funds. So I have to be able to contact whichever department, or if it's a taxpayer, to be able to handle that accordingly. Right now, we don't have a fee for inefficient funds or SAP payments, and that's what this ordinance would be, to be able to give the departments kind of a fee to be able to give people that are constantly giving them checks that aren't good anymore. And putting a fee on that to be able to stop that happening, because it does happen quite often in some departments, but being able to give those departments the ability to charge that fee, and then also being able to give them the ability to be able, if that person does pay with a good check, to be able to pay that fee first and then pay the principal balance. Because I have been asked that, and we don't have that in place right now. The county doesn't charge anything for SAP payments or inefficient funds right now. And as far as the administrative cost, it does take a lot for us to back everything out because the funds don't come back. The funds just aren't there. So it also kind of covers that as well.
My question would be, is 25 and up? Because I think a lot of businesses are in the 30 or 35.
Yeah, and that's on the low range. I picked the low range just because when I looked on the average of all the other counties, that's kind of what the average was. So I did go low with that. I did do 25s.
Mr. Carroll.
I agree this needs to be done, but is there some way we can put something on our website or some notification beforehand so people are aware of the policy?
So that would be up to the departments and whether or not they would charge that or not. So, but it gives them the option. They don't have to, but it will give them the option to do that.
Mr. Chair, do we publish our ordinances? So that'll get published.
Yeah, it'll be published, the dates and the ordinance.
But your comment of it would be optional by
Yeah,
department,
so-
would this be a county policy?
So they can, so departments are authorized to refuse checks for any outstanding. They can apply the payment if they would like to.
That's a different, that's where Trish would step in and probably say this. That would be,
Yeah.
you're just getting it on books.
Right.
Yep.
Those there would probably be more internal.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve this ordinance as well for dishonored checks. Motion by Cooley, seconded by Manning. Discussion anymore? All those in favor of approving the ordinance for dishonored checks signify by saying aye.
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 All right, thank you. Item 17, discussion and possible action approval of delegation of authority pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 48.09. Item 17.
So, 48 is the children's code. It's the chapter in Wisconsin statutes dealing with juvenile matters. While assisting HHS with a juvenile matter, I came across this statute with Stat 48.09, which actually prohibits corporation counsel from appearing on behalf of the public in such matters unless the county board delegates them that authority. It is by default the DA's office that does it. So I had big plans, big hopes to take some of this off Amy's desk and, assist HHS in getting some of these TPRs and juvenile guardianships and things moving along. Found that out and hit a roadblock because I can't now knowingly appear in violation of statute. There is a process to correct that. DA Harper has reached out to the Department of Administration, who is involved in that process. We are hoping that we will not have to wait until January 1st for this change to be effective. That's what's dictated by statute. But basically, this wasn't a problem because of Amy's dual position. It had never really come up before. Apparently, my predecessor didn't do juvenile stuff at all, possibly for this reason, but it never really came up. So once I came across this, we wanted to amend it because it is in the corporation counsel job description that the board intended for corporation counsel to handle these things. So this will be a part of the process, bringing our authorities in line with state statute.
Questions, comments? Mr. Carroll?
In the now that wherefore.
Yeah, there's a two missing. Shall appear to represent the interests of the public.
Will this, Mr. Wendell, need to go to full county board as well?
Will, yes.
So then, does this need to be a resolution or? Yeah. So a resolution would be in order, a motion to just into a resolution to delegation to Mr. Wendell. However you want to. Corporate counsel, yeah. Motion by Mr. Turk, seconded by Mr. Carroll. And I think Mr. Wendell will help you write the.
Yeah, well, it's up there. You
Okay.
have the draft. We'll fix it.
All right. Other than a few corrections, so. Comments? If not, all those in favor of moving this on to full county board signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, nobody's opposed. Unanimous. All right. Item 18, ready for closed session. Motion to enter a closed session pursuant to statute 19.85F, financial, medical, social, personal history, so on and so forth. So we can have a short, motion by Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. Gill. All those in favor of going into closed session signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye and bye.
Bye. All right, unanimous by those present. We have Mr. Carey, Severson can stay, Elaine can stay. Who else do we have, Mr. Wendell? Just you. Yep. Mr. Perry's on his way out, done for the day? The day. All right. Did we tell you that he is willing to, are you correct? You're willing to fill in until the end of be appointed?
He sent all the information, which we'll review in August for him.
Okay.
It would have been July, but we already had stuff sent to the printer to be published, so we were already started the process. But
I twisted his arm.
Mr. Chair, if I can pause the recording to get over to.
Yep.
Perfect.
Good. All right, we have returned to open session. There is no action on the items from closed session. Any correspondence, Mr. Kalish? Future agenda items from the group. Email me, call me. I thought that, where's the rest of the county board? We got an agenda long enough. All right, you got some, let me know. The next meeting would be the 21st if we need a second one, but hopefully we don't, we'll let you know. Otherwise, July 21st would be our next meeting, otherwise back into August, so. Mr. Manning? Motion to adjourn. Second by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor of adjourning until hopefully August, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Good. All right.